Thank you so much. I want to thank each of you all for being here today. I want to also relate to you a conversation I had with Don Merritt. When I got here, I said, Don, it's a great day to have this rain. Isn't it beautiful to see this rain and see things greening up before our very eyes? I said, how do you think I could take credit for it? He said, Robert, just do this. He said, just say two things. He said, say, it's raining, and I'm here, and let them draw the conclusions. But I am so glad to see you all, and I want to thank each of you for all the work that you all have done, because it has been significant. There was no greater thrill than on June 8th, on the night of June 8th, to celebrate a victory, not for Robert Hurt, but a victory for the people of the 5th District in going to the ballot after working so hard over the last 8 months and choosing a nominee that's ready to do battle and send Tom Perriello back home on November 2nd. I was so thrilled and pleased and so appreciative of the work that each of you all did to get us there. I think we had an excellent organization. We had an excellent foundation to build on, and that's what this represents here today, because as much money as Tom Perriello has in the bank right now, $1.7 million, as much money as he has in the bank, he can't buy this election. He cannot buy this election. We can win this election by working hard, working the same way we did in the primary election, and now that we have all of the teams together, of all of the good candidates that were in the nomination process, now that we have all of us together now, there's nothing that we can't do. We can make the phone calls, we can write the letters to the editor, we can get the signs out, and we can do the work necessary for victory on November 2nd. You know, I say this just about every time I speak to a group. We are at a crossroads in this country. We are at a crossroads. I was talking to a gentleman yesterday who's been in business since the 1950s, somebody who has been very successful over the years, and recognizes that his success is owing to one thing, and that is the fact that in this country, hard work is rewarded. In this country, sacrifice is rewarded. In this country, you can build a business based on the constitutional principles that our founders laid out for us. That is what this country was built on. And he said to me, Robert, I've been in business for the last 60 years. He said, I have never been more fearful for the future of this country. If we don't take our country back now, it may be too late. That's what he said to me. And he harkened back to the founding principles that we all know. The founding principles that folks like Patrick Henry, James Madison, Thomas Jefferson, all folks who walked here on the soil of the 5th District, they understood those principles of limited government, free markets, and individual liberty. And when you stop and think about whether or not we are living up to those principles, it must give you pause. Look across the Potomac River and see what our Congress is doing, what our Speaker is doing, what our President is doing as it relates to those principles, those founding principles. Do we have a government that's limited in nature in any way? We have a government that's unlimited in nature. We have a government, as Don said, is spending $1.7 trillion it doesn't have, borrowing $13 trillion that it can't pay back. Friends, the folks in Congress don't know history. Not only do they not know how to use a calculator, they don't know their history because they have an arrogance that says we can spend money we don't have and borrow money we can't pay back and there aren't any consequences. And we know that's wrong. And why is it a moral imperative? Why is it a moral imperative that we stop it now and replace the folks that are there with folks who understand how to balance a budget, understand how to think about the next generation? Why is it important? Because, as Charles Hawkins said, this is not about us, it's about the next generation. It's about the children and grandchildren that you all represent here. The children and grandchildren. Because the country that we've been given, the country that the Lord has blessed us with, we don't stop it now, may not be there for our children. And that's what I think this election is all about. when you stop and you think about the other founding principles that our founders infused into the Declaration of Independence, infused in the Constitution, you stop and you think about free markets. I love to tell this story about the farmer that I met up in Nelson County, who took me around his farm and showed me his orchards. He was a peach grower. We got around through spent about an hour going through his farm, and at the end of the day, he said, Mr. Hurt, he said, you know, you wouldn't believe the number of federal regulations that I have to comply with in order to run this place. He started down the list of the ABC, alphabet soup, the FDA, the Department of Labor, the IRS, the Department of Taxation. He went down the whole list of all the different regulations that he had to comply with, and he said to me at the end of that, he said, you know, every minute that I'm spending on complying with these regulations is a minute I'm not doing what the Lord put me on this earth to do. Every dollar I spend on this complying with these regulations is a dollar that I am not putting back into my business, into my farm. And he said, all I'm trying to do is grow peaches. Friends, how is it that we have come to that in this country? That it is so difficult to do something that's so good and so right and what made this country great? Individual liberty. Need we look any further than the health care bill that we now have adopted in this country? Friends, that health care bill affects each of us in so many different ways, and there are dozens of reasons to be against that health care bill. But the first and foremost is the fact that it denies us our liberty. We have given our individual liberty away. And what would Patrick Henry think about that? What would Patrick Henry think about the fact that now the federal government comes into our kitchens, sits down at our kitchen table and says to us, now you are not smart enough to make health care decisions for your family. You're not smart enough to make those financial decisions for your family. The federal government is going to tell you what to do. And that's what we've done in this country, friends. And that's why this election is so important. That's why your work is so important. And that's why it is so important that starting today with the opening of this headquarters, that we go to work, that we make the phone calls, that we write the letters to the editor, that we put the signs up, that we talk to our friends and neighbors, and make sure that on November 2nd, that we elect the new Congress that will put the people first, will put the next generation first, and not the next election. I want to leave you with this, and I think that Danny Marshall summed it up nicely. You know, we had a poll that was put out by Survey USA last week, and that they conducted, and it showed a good margin. It showed a 23-point margin in this race. And I've been asked, well, isn't that great news? Friends, I don't think that may be great news in as much as I'm glad it's not the other way around. But let me tell you this, we must be guided not by that number, not 5835 in the next 90 days. The number that we have to wake up seeing every single morning is 727. Because if we work, we will win. If we take for granted all the good things we have going for us in this race right now, we will fail. And that's what I want to leave you all with. As we leave here today, we need to get out there for the sake of this future of this country. Go to work, and we'll have victory on November 2nd. Thank you very much.